Welcome to the Richmond Film Network Podcast, your all-access pass to the world of independent cinema. Each week, we go beyond the credits and sit down with the creatives who turn vision into reality. Tune in weekly to find out who's on the RFN pod.
Hello, everyone. It's Lisa Giles with the Richmond Film Network. And today on the call sheet, we have an incredible filmmaker whose film, Girls Will Be Girls, is having its Virginia premiere at RFN Indie Fest in 2 weeks on Saturday, May 17th in the short circuit screening block at 2 p.m. at the Park RVA. We're heartbroken that she can't be with us for the screening, but we have the next best thing, having her on today's podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Isabel Steuble-Johnson is a director and producer with roots in Philly, but currently hopping between London and Philly. She's had a blast filming in places like New York, LA, Cape Town, Paris, Berlin, and Copenhagen. Her film journey has been quite the roller coaster. She's cooked up some award-winning documentaries and short films. One of her proudest moments was when Bloomberg Art Plus Technology snagged a Cannes Dolphin in 2018. Also, Homegirl got picked up by BFI London Calling that same year. In 2018, she even scored a Best Producer nomination for National Anthem at their Underwire Film Festival. She's teamed up with some big-name global brands, whipping up fresh TV and social content for the likes of Coca-Cola, Walker's, Tropicana, World Remit, Flannels, LinkedIn, EasyJet, GSK, DHL, NHS, and Channel 4. Lately, she's been diving headfirst into directing. She even wrapped up 5 Sundance collab classes and is now putting together her application for the Sundance Lab. Other highlights include scoring a general grant for her short film, Custard Creams, and getting into the Oscar-qualifying Bronze Lens Festival. She currently has a couple more shorts and a feature currently in the post-production pipeline. But that's not all. She's also been directing content for some established institutions like the Tate and working with well-known companies like Legal & General, Novartis, UCB, and Aldi. Her journey in the film world just keeps getting more exciting. Everyone, welcome Isabel Steuble-Johnson.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We are going to dive right in with the film that's screening with us, Girls Will Be Girls. The log line is: when 2 young aristocrats stumble upon a maid being assaulted, they save the day by killing the perpetrator. Now, it's so fun. It's feminist period horror comedy. That's not something we see all the time. So, Isabel, tell me about that. How did that idea get cooked up into what our audience is going to see on May 17th?
I live in London most of the time, and I thought, listen, I can't live in London and not have a period film in my repertoire. So I was chatting with a few writers that I really like, and we sort of couldn't agree on what that period film could look like. You know, nobody had one readily available that we really wanted to make at that time. And so I happened to meet a brand new writer called Natasha Biggs, and she had Girls Will Be Girls in a very sort of loose, rough form. And she just started chatting with me and discussing with me the film. And as we sort of were chatting things through, we realized that we have very similar sensibilities, and we realized that this is a film that could be very special. So we started developing it, pushing the script, really pushing the story, and once we were sort of happy with the script, few drafts in, we shot it. We shot it over one day with 2 cameras, which was a feat that I'd never done before in the short film arena. So we were very lucky to be able to shoot with 2 cameras. And then once we went into the edit, we refined the story even further, as you always do. Very famously, you do the film 3 times, and that was very much with this film. We found it first in the script, then we found it again in production when we got the actors on board. And then once we hit that editing time, we found the script, the film again. So, yeah, it was a long process, but it was a really good and creative and fulfilling process.
So you mentioned it's a long process. How long from time you had the script ready to final cut or final film that we're seeing?
I mean, it was probably 6 months, which I know doesn't feel maybe that long for a short film, but it was a process that I feel like had many stages, long in that way. We really worked on it collaboratively, and we really worked to pull the story apart and then put it back together again. So yeah.
No, I'd say 6 months is a long time for a short. So I feel that. I feel that. Now you mentioned that obviously being in London, you said that you couldn't be in London and not do a period piece, and it's beautiful, simply beautiful. This locations that you have, this wardrobe that you have. Tell me about that, getting that location, the wardrobe, all of that to create this visual aesthetic that you achieved with this film.
Yeah. So I really wanted to make sure that this film had a very diverse team in it. So from everything from wardrobe to DOP to art, all of that was a very diverse, very female-led team. And working with the team, we needed to find that perfect location. Luckily, we are in London, so we have a plethora of houses. But I mean, I say that, but a lot of them are being used for Bridgerton, for Pride and Prejudice, for all of those things. So we kept looking and kept looking. We traveled all over for this house, and then we happened to find the house that we shot in. It had a woods. It had various different houses that we could use for a green room and all of that. So it had a ton of space, and they were willing to give us an amazing deal, which was for a short film is super important. And it was just perfect. It's just one of these houses that is pulled out of the time, sorry. And we didn't have to do much art direction. We could use a lot of what the house was already there to provide, like the horses. I mean, that was luck that we could have horses at our disposal.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the costumes came from the National Theatre. So here in London, we have the famous National Theatre costume shop. They rent out all of their costumes, and we were lucky enough to find the perfect costumes there. We worked with an amazing costume designer. He was very, very particular about the costume colors, each of the aristocrat, both of the aristocrat girls, they're bugs. So one is a dragonfly, one is more of a butterfly, and he's pulled out all of this research and really gone into huge amounts of detail. So there's butterflies in the wigs for, so, and all of that brings to the richness of the story and the richness of the design of it. And we worked with an amazing hair and makeup team that really was able to pull together his ideas as well, and they collaborated to bring all of those ideas to life.
Well, it really comes across. I totally appreciated all of that effort in seeing that on screen, and it's very intentional. And as listening to you describe it, I literally got chills. So shout out to your wardrobe and hair and makeup people for that kind of specificity and that kind of attention to detail, because it really lands as it should. So the film tackles gender-based violence and power dynamics, not only male-female, but female-female power dynamics and societal expectations. So talk to me about that, about the message that you're trying to send, the theme in creating the story and those messages particularly.
Yeah, I mean, that was really important to me, that we, it's fun to get the wigs out and the pretty dresses, but what story are we trying to tell? And why are we making this film now?
Right.
Why is it important to tell this film now, or tell this story now? And I didn't want to. I love Bridgerton, don't get me wrong, and I love a good Pride and Prejudice, but I didn't want to tell a story that we've seen before. I wanted to make sure that we were saying something that feels very modern, feels very, um, feels like it could be set in current times and it would still translate over. So we're watching something that is a mirror to our current times. For me, it was important that, exactly like you said, that we discuss those relationships of class between women, of how that translates, what women of a certain class can get away with, that, you know, uh, working class women can't get away with. These aristocrats can get away with actual murder, and their maid is unable to sort of live that same lifestyle. Um, and and then that dynamic between men and women, and how almost the class dynamic, and that 1% can do anything, and even the men in the town were not able to say anything to these super rich aristocratic women about their crimes. So we really wanted to investigate that, and we really wanted to figure out how we tell a story that is so relevant to today, especially in British culture. There's been tons of recent studies about the film industry and how it's populated with people who are only telling certain stories. So we wanted to tell something that was a bit more focused on the issues that we face.
So how about your actors? How did they feel about tackling this material and how did they go about that kind of character development? All of the roles would have been, I think, something special for an actor. It's horror, it's comedy,
Mhm.
it's all these things. So they get to play with all these different genres to tell this singular story.
Yeah, absolutely. The three actors, the main three actors that we got are amazing. They are incredible actors. They got into it 100%. They gave 100%. They went through sort of research. They looked at it and really pulled apart their characters. And sometimes you are just really lucky with the actors that you get. And I was just incredibly lucky in this case that we got three actors that are so talented, but are so dedicated as well, and just were willing to go on that journey. It is comedy, it is horror, but mostly it's a female story, and mostly it's investigating three very different characters. So they all really got to play and they all really got to go into it intensely. We did rehearsals and we did a lot of discussion and we did a lot of research together. And I think that's why their representations are so rich. But they also just really liked each other.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fortunate.
Yes, so that I think helps so much. They had this natural chemistry that really just came alive on set. And it's just, when it works so well. And some things you can plan for, and then other things you just have to really capture on the day. And luckily we were able to work with them to just tighten moments, but they had it immediately. So it was great, especially carrying the dead body. They were They were improvising throughout all of that. We threw the drone into the air. They're just talking for about 25 minutes. You can't, sometimes you can't even direct that.
Right.
So yeah, it was great. It was really great, but difficult as well. There is a trigger warning with this film. Working in that environment is really difficult. We had to think about how we show essay on screen, and I never want to be somebody that in the script there was a full essay in the script, and I said absolutely not. I'm not shooting that. I think you get what's happening incredibly quickly. We as audience members understand an assault when we see it. We don't need to see it, and I think we as filmmakers need to be very careful about that line of what we're showing and how and why we would push something so far, especially in a short film. So what you see is very much just a grab and a push, and I think audiences every time we've shown it have totally understood. They have a little gasp and are super happy when he dies. So I think that's plenty. That's plenty. And I think that was very important to me as well. And in the discussions that I had with that actor, that felt right.
So filming a period piece with action elements on a budget in a time crunch with everything that you had at your disposal and the tools that you had. Tell me if you had any production challenges and how did you overcome any of those?
It was very it was very time constrained. One day, it could have easily have been 5 days, to really drill into those details. I think the main production challenge that I faced was just moving at such a quick pace. We had a Steadicam operator, and we managed to get some incredible shots, especially that the final shot of the film, I think is a really beautiful shot. But you always want more time.
Yeah.
That said, I worked with an amazing producer called Priscilla Babin, and she is very talented, very on it. So, production was, a tight ship. And all of the team, all of the HODs, again, they're so good at their jobs. And we had all of these HOD meetings. We had a ton of discussions. So on the day, we just did the thing. It was almost like a play. We just really got into costume, got into makeup, and knew exactly where we needed to be because we discussed it so often and had gone through each minute detail. And for me, that's so important, especially in production, to make sure that there's nothing is left to chance. And that's when I think that you can do your best work because you have a little bit of time to play, because you're not having those discussions of, oh, what does the hair look like? We knew everything. We knew everything the moment we walked onto set. The trucks came in, everybody unloaded, and we just went to stations. So, yeah. I've done other short films that have not been like that. But this one, I felt, because it was so ambitious one day, it had to be.
So you've worked on commercial content and branded campaigns. Did anything from that world inform how you structured or produced this film?
Yes, I think everything. I think in commercials, we have to move very quickly, and we have limited time. The amazing thing about commercials is you have a ton of money. but which we obviously did not. But that time movement and that sort of ability to make quick decisions, I think is something that I have learned from commercials, and I'm so happy that I've kind of come up in that way. Yeah. You have to be, you can't sort of think a long time in commercials.
Yeah. So what's been the most surprising or gratifying reaction that you've received from audiences so far with this film?
Every time that I have seen the film with an audience, Abigail picks up a rock, there's an applause, and
Oh,
I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. There's something about somebody getting what they deserve.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's a bit satisfying. So yes, I think that there's something about seeing this film in particular in front of an audience that is so cool, and I can't wait for audiences to see it, because I think, yeah, I think it is a crowd pleaser. I went to EFM with it, and we we had a screening of it, but it was with mostly it was with a German male audience.
Oh,
And they
okay.
sat very quietly and watched the film. And it was not the same. So I think with a real like boisterous audience, with the most I've seen it with mostly female audiences, it's incredible. So yeah.
So you've got a feature and more shorts in the works.
Yes,
Can you give us a sneak peek into what's next for you?
Yes. So I'm currently directing a few plays as well, because I'm really interested in how sharpening that working with actor muscles. So, really making sure that I can work with actors. And I think there's no better way to do that than in theater. So I have two plays that are going to be coming out in London. One next May the 12th, 13th, and 14th, and then one in August. And then in the meantime, I am working on a feature. I have two features that we're finding funding for. One is a queer love story, really beautiful film that I'm working on with a writer called Joe Borg, and he has written a short that opened at BFI Flair. So this would be our sort of next collaboration. Really excited about that one. And then the other feature that I have in the works is called The Divorce Party. And it's sort of along the lines of Girlfriends, really funny, outrageous comedy set in London. A young woman is getting divorced, and her other friends are getting married, and she sort of becomes unhinged. So that will be a very funny comedy. I have also shot a feature called The Disruptors, but when I tell people about this, they sort of put their head in their hands. It's because when we shot it, it was a little less close to reality. It's about a social media. It's about a social media agency in London who have a oil company who is their client, and they create this AI character who becomes so popular that it wins the presidential election. And it follows the fallout of that, the unraveling of this social media agency, because they've created pretty much a character who's not real that has won the the U.S. presidential election. And they become sort of more and more unhinged as time goes by. So that one is currently in finishing. So that will be out soon.
You are doing so much. You have stage, you had short film, you have feature film, you have commercials. How, well, first, well, how do you manage it all? And two, what is your favorite discipline?
Ah, um, I love to direct more than anything. So that's, I think, how I do everything because it's genuinely not work for me.
Mm.
I absolutely love it. I love working with actors. I love working with crews. When I'm on set, we are vibing. So it's one of those things that I've been producing since um 2009, and that always felt very difficult. Every production I would work on was an achievement, and it was great, and we won really big awards, but it felt very difficult. And when I'm directing, it feels like I feel totally at home. So that's why I just do as much as I can. I will need to have a holiday soon, but yes, that's why it just feels like I can jump in and do it, and it's so much fun. Um, but my favorite, it's hard to say. I don't know. I really enjoy, um, I really enjoy film. I think I recently saw Sinners, and I was like,
Mm.
this is a film. There's some films you see and you're just like, wow, somebody has made a film that is just incredible. The craft of it is incredible, you know, and stuff like that. When you think about it, when you think about all of the hard work that goes into film, all of the thought, the colors, the production
Mhm.
design, down to everybody, and everybody should be treated with respect on a film set because, well, in general, but I mean, everybody, it doesn't matter the job that you have in film, you're all everybody's so integral to pulling off this feat, almost like a miracle to get a film done. Um, yeah, I absolutely love it. But I think theater is incredible as well. The acting in theater, when it works, you're like, wow. So I can't choose.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Isabel, this has been a pleasure. Wish you the best of everything, and we'll miss you at your screening. But in the meantime, where can we find you online to follow your journey?
I am on all social platforms under Made by Isabel, and my website sort of has all of my latest details. That's madebyisabel.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
No, thank you. Thank you. This has been amazing.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Richmond Film Network podcast. Thanks to our guest and to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Tune in next week to see who's on the RFN pod. Until then, keep the cameras rolling.